My boyfriend brought his ex to my mom's birthday unannounced, so I brought an even better surprise. And it was waiting in my office, in the form of a manila folder that was going to implode his life the same way he decided to implode mine. The air in our Austin home carried gardenias, my mother's favorite scent. Susan always said the smell reminded her of her grandmother's house in Alabama, lazy summers and safe afternoons before the world became complicated. For her 60th birthday, I wanted to envelop her in that security. 6 months of planning. From the micro fairy lights hung in the old oak trees, now looking like captured stars, to the soft jazz playlist chosen note by note. Susan deserved perfection. She had worked 2 jobs for a decade after my father's premature death, ensuring I never lacked anything, even if it meant wearing the same winter shoes until the soles wore out. Tonight was a 6-month thank you, wrapped in silk and twinkling lights. Until he arrived. I was on the patio, finally relaxing, laughing at a story my Aunt Beth was telling about my mother's college days. The champagne was cold in my glass. That's when silence fell. Not awe, a sudden vacuum that sucks the air, the kind that precedes a disaster. The jazz band stopped mid-measure. My Aunt Beth stopped on the word tequila. I turned slowly, my heart already a cold knot. Liam, my boyfriend for 3 years, the man who should have been by my side, but who called at 4 saying he was stuck in a last-minute meeting. He stood under the entrance arch, lit by the lights I hung, and beside him, hand possessively tucked into the crook of his elbow, was Hannah, his ex, the one he swore was ancient history, a little unstable, someone he hadn't spoken to in years. Fire engine red dress. Tight, vibrant in the sea of pastel blues and creams, a choice that didn't say I'm a guest, but look at me. My first thought was a metallic chill running down my spine. I could feel her perfume, cheap, sickly sweet, reaching across the patio, mingling with the white flowers. Liam saw me. Recognition, then poorly disguised irritation, as if I were the problem. Then that guilty half-smile he wore when he forgot to take out the trash, and he started walking toward me, pulling her by the hand like a fair prize. "Chloe, darling, happy birthday to your mom. Look who I found downtown." I didn't let him finish. I turned abruptly, handing my untouched champagne to a waiter, his face a mask of shocked professionalism, and walked inside. I walked straight past my mother, who rushed to me, her joyful expression now utter confusion. "Chloe, darling, you're pale." I didn't answer. If I opened my mouth, I'd scream. I could hear him following me, his heavy footsteps on the hardwood floor, that low, urgent voice of fake concern. "Chloe, wait. Let me explain. It's a misunderstanding. She was in town, her car broke down, she seemed so lonely, I was just being kind." I stopped at my office door. The air here was cooler. Smell of book dust, furniture wax, and paper, my sanctuary. I turned, feeling the cold marble of the doorframe against my back. "You brought her to my mother's 60th birthday party." It wasn't a question, it was a sentence. Liam looked away for a second, but Hannah had an unmistakable gleam of triumph in her eyes. She wasn't hurt or lonely. She was a predator marking territory. "I didn't think you'd mind. We're all adults, right? It's not like we have anything to hide." Nothing to hide. The words floated between us. Any hesitation I'd had in the last 2 weeks vanished. The manila folder was on my desk exactly where I'd left it. The folder my private investigator Ben had delivered 48 hours earlier. The one I had prayed I wouldn't need to use. I remembered the moment of delivery. Anonymous coffee shop. "Ms. Benson," Ben said, eyes kind but firm. "What I found is complicated. It's not just indiscretion. It's a pattern." My stomach churned. I drove home and didn't open the folder for 6 hours. I wanted to be wrong. I planned to confront him on Monday, in private. Give him a chance to explain the bank statements, the flight records that didn't add up. But he chose the battlefield. He chose my family. He brought the war to my home. You're absolutely right, Liam. We're all adults, and adults deal with consequences. I stepped into the office, closed the door. Blessed silence. I leaned against the desk, hands shaking. I looked at our photo in Vermont, laughing in the snow. It was a lie. Everything. I picked up the folder and returned, walking past them as if they were irrelevant furniture. The party still pulsed hesitantly outside. The band restarted Fly Me to the Moon, my parents' favorite song. The contrast between the smooth melody and the storm in my chest was nauseating. My mother met me near the drink table. Frank, my stepfather, stood beside her, face dark, solid as the oak trees outside. "Chloe, what's going on? Who is that woman in red?" I covered her hand with mine. "Mom, I need you to trust me. 5 minutes. And please, keep Frank away from Liam." Frank shook his head. "I don't like this." "I know. That's why I'm handling it." Liam and Hannah now pretended to admire a painting, uncomfortable near the appetizer table. No one spoke to them. The guests formed a protective circle, an invisible wall of loyalty. Ava, my best friend and lawyer with a radar for lies, approached. "Either I'm seeing things or that's Liam with the Houston witch." "You're not seeing things." I opened the folder. The light illuminated the first document. "Chloe, what the hell is this?" Her eyes widened. Inside, there weren't just photos. There were bank statements, flight records, a copy of a rental agreement. "Chloe," Ava whispered, lawyer mode activating, "what is this evidence of? Be careful with public disclosure. I know exactly what I'm doing." Liam saw me looking. Tired of being ignored, he walked toward me, this time without Hannah, face contorted. "Are you going to ignore me? Seriously? In front of everyone? Are you going to ruin your mother's party over silly insecurity?" Insecurity? My voice was loud enough for nearby conversations to stop. "I'm not ignoring you, Liam. I'm processing the fact that you lied about your business trips to Chicago for the past 6 weeks." He stopped a meter away. The flush disappeared. He looked around, realizing we were the center of attention. "What are you talking about? Your urgent business wasn't in Chicago. It was in Houston. You've been there 3 weekends in the last month." I showed him the first sheet. Flight 456, Austin to Houston, Hotel Zaza, room 712. I tilted my head in Hannah's direction, now anxious. The first seed was planted for everyone listening. Nearby guests fell silent. The circle of silence widened. Liam looked around, his PR smile turning into a grimace. "Let's talk about this in private. You're making a scene." "I'm making a scene? You brought your ex-girlfriend to my mother's birthday unannounced, and I'm making a scene? You know what's funny? I still keep that photo of us in Vermont, the one we took when you said I was the only one. Old habits, huh?" The subtext hit him. "I believed you." Liam tried to grab my arm. "Stop this." I pulled away sharply. "Don't touch me." The once comforting scent now felt suffocating, too sweet, like flowers rotting in stagnant water. "You didn't just lie about where you were, you lied about why." If you're enjoying this story, like and subscribe to the channel. Share in the comments if you've been through something similar. The silence was now absolute. Hannah tried to sneak toward the exit, but Aunt Beth, a formidable ex-linebacker, subtly blocked her way, pretending to reach for a canapé. "Chloe, for God's sake," Liam hissed, eyes darting to Frank, who watched with crossed arms like a mountain. "Are you drunk?" He appealed to my mother. "Susan, please, she's out of control. She's had too much to drink." "I'm sober as a judge, Liam, which is more than I can say about your finances." I pulled out the first bank statement. "I found it strange that you needed so many bridge loans in recent months. Strange that the money I invested, the fund my father left me, seemed to be evaporating." Liam went pale, not flushed, pale, with fear, a cadaverous white. "This is private, confidential business records." "Not when it's my money." I looked at Hannah, frozen near Aunt Beth. "Did you know her boutique business in Houston went bankrupt last year? That she was being sued for fraud by her former partners?" I didn't need an answer. The panic in her eyes said it all. I had the documents. I saw the numbers, the transfers. For one devastating second, I hesitated. I looked at the man I had loved, whom I had let into my life, and saw how broken he was. Was I different from him? Or was I becoming exactly what I hated? I was using private information to publicly humiliate him. But then I looked at my mother. Standing near the fountain, her face a mask of pain on what should have been her happiest night. She was gripping her flower wristlet so tightly her knuckles were white. The hesitation was gone. Vengeance had an emotional cost, yes, but the truth was more important. My family's protection was more important. Who am I if everything I believed was a lie? Who am I if I let you do this to her? The scent now mingled with champagne spilled on the stone floor. Celebration turned into decay and confrontation, and I was ready to burn everything down. You weren't just visiting her in Houston, Liam. You were cleaning up her mess. Liam said nothing. He just looked at me, and for the first time, I saw what lay behind the facade. Not hatred, weakness, desperate panic. He wasn't a movie villain, not purely evil. He was a weak man who built a life on a house of cards and was watching the wind blow. He loved the idea of being the provider, the successful man. And Hannah? Hannah was his biggest failure, one he desperately tried to cover up. What does this have to do with me? What do her debts have to do with my trust fund? You weren't just visiting or consoling Liam. You were paying her debts with my money. The entire patio gasped, a collective oh of horror. It was the connection that tied everything together. Secret trips, an active joint account, disappearing money. I invested $50,000 in your software project in April. The project never existed, did it? It was to pay her lawyers, to pay the settlement that saved her from jail. I pulled out the final proof, a statement showing a $50,000 transfer from the Benson Donovan Capital account to a law firm in Houston. Chloe, you don't know what you're talking about, he tried, his voice a weak whisper. I don't know? Well, maybe he does. I looked toward the entrance. Ben, my investigator, was there, but not alone. Beside him, an older man, in an impeccable gray suit, holding a leather briefcase. I had called from the office. He's here. Bring Mr. Cole. Liam Donovan, the man said, his professional voice cutting through the night. My name is Marcus Cole. I am a senior attorney representing the financial interests of Chloe Benson. You are hereby formally notified of fraud, embezzlement, and breach of fiduciary duty. What happened next was a blur. Liam didn't shout or protest. His hands shook so violently that the whiskey glass slipped from his fingers. It wasn't a simple drop. He crushed it in his own hand before it fell, exploding into shards of glass and amber liquid across the stone floor. He didn't move to wipe the cut on his palm. He just stared at the shards, at the whiskey and blood mingling, as if he no longer knew what was real. Hannah, on the other hand, started to cry. Not silent tears of remorse, loud, performative sobs. I didn't know anything, I swear. He told me the money was his. He lied to me. I'm a victim here. She started to back away from him. He used me. Frank stepped forward, his face like thunder. Get out, both of you. Get off my wife's property now, before I call the police. Liam finally lifted his head. His eyes met mine. The man I had loved was gone. In his place, an empty, terrified stranger. You did this in front of everyone. You brought the storm to my mother's home, Liam. I just provided the lightning. They left, Liam walking stiffly, robotically, leaving a trail of blood drops, with lawyer Cole following at a polite distance. Hannah scurried behind, her red dress looking like a fire alarm in the twilight. The silence that remained was heavy, deafening, filled with shattered glass and broken truths. The party didn't resume. The band silently packed up their instruments. Guests said their goodbyes in whispers, hugging my mother, squeezing my arm with looks of solidarity and horror. Within 30 minutes, the patio was empty, save for family, Ava, and the cleaning crew sweeping up broken glass. The resolution wasn't a single moment. It was a painful, slow process, like the recovery of a broken bone that needed to be reset. The next morning was the worst. The house was silent. Smell of wilting flowers and sour champagne everywhere. I found my mother in the kitchen, looking at the pile of untouched gifts. "I'm so sorry, Mom." She turned and hugged me. "Don't apologize for speaking the truth, Chloe. Never." In the following weeks, the lawyers took over. Hearings began. The fraud was deeper. Not just $50,000, but nearly $90,000, diverted in small increments over a year. Liam was using my trust to finance not only Hannah's debts, but an entire lifestyle he couldn't afford. Healing wasn't linear. There were days I'd wake up and for a glorious second forget. That second when the world seemed normal. Then the weight would fall on me, and it was as if the glass was breaking all over again. There were days I hated him with a fury that scared me. Others when I felt only empty pity for that weak man. Forgiveness, I realized, wasn't linear. Forgiving wasn't absolving him. It was freeing myself from the weight of anger, from the weight of his bloody hand on my mother's floor. My mother was my safe harbor. One night, about a month later, we were on the same patio, now silent and dark. She held tea. I feel guilty for my party being the stage for that. I took her hand. "Mom, it wasn't ruined. It was purified. The truth came out. You didn't deserve to have a liar and a thief eating your canapés." She gave a weak smile. "You're right, the canapés were too good for him." "He didn't deserve you, Chloe," said Ava, who had brought wine and pizza, our favorite healing meal. "And honestly, your surprise with lawyer Marcus Cole, legendary. We'll be talking about that for years." We laughed, a fragile sound that felt new in that space. It was there that I understood. Family isn't about blood. It's about who chooses to stay when everything falls apart, who brings pizza and wine and helps you sweep up the pieces. 6 months later, the case was resolved. A settlement was reached. I recovered most of the money. Liam and Hannah disappeared, probably to start their cycle of lies in another state. Another day, while tidying my office, I found a dried flower pressed in a book. It had fallen from a centerpiece that night. I picked it up. The scent, once so powerful, had long faded. It was just paper, fragile and brown at the edges. I threw it in the trash. The symbol no longer held power. I was free. This story shows us that sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who have the greatest power to hurt us. But it is through this pain, this betrayal, that we discover a strength we didn't know we had, a strength to protect those we love, and most importantly, to protect ourselves. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories. Leave in the comments which story you'd like to hear next. Always remember, you are stronger than you think. And you, what do you value more? The peace of a comfortable lie or the painful cost of the truth?